Excellent. Well done. We're all here. Okay, so now we have Dinah Wallace, is it?
Oh, no, that's Judah. We've got another.
From behalf of Littleton School. Okay. It's very good to see the schools getting involved in this.
Good luck. Be proud.
Is this great to be here rather than at school doing stuff?
Yeah.
School hasn't started yet, has
Yeah,
it?
so it might have.
Oh.
Yeah.
The floor is yours. Far away.
Atamaria, my name is Molly. We are really excited about this opportunity to share our thoughts and ideas on the Council's adaptation plans for Whakaropo and Kokorarata Port Levy. Today, we are presenting the collective feedback from a group of 15 students from Littleton Primary School. Over the past few years, our senior classes and our Nature Rangers team have been learning about climate change. This included exploring the science behind and impacts of climate change, as well as investigating actions, different worldviews, and perspectives relating to our changing environment. We've also been exploring our rights as children to share our perspective and ideas on things that are important to us. To help raise awareness about climate change, we also designed and created a street art mural in our community called Pick Your Path.
Kia ora tātou. My name is Elsie. Climate change is obviously a big thing, and something that both interests and affects us as children and young people, not just now, but in the future. And although we are all starting to see and feel the impacts of a changing climate, we also know it will affect our lives and future generations to come. Working with diverse communities, planning ahead and taking action now is extremely important. We think it is great that the Council is committed to doing that. There has already been a lot of talking, now we need to act.
Tēnā koutou. My name is Joss. Although Littleton is not currently part of the adaptation plans for Whakaropo, because we live in and enjoy the area, we thought it was important to share our thoughts and ideas on the plan. Our feedback focuses on Whakaropo in general, providing feedback on how coastal hazards may impact the things we enjoy and value, and what we would like to happen to protect and maintain them. We also have some feedback on the suggested marine transport network.
We all agreed that Whakaropo is a really special place and we love living here. Our favourite things are the culture and vibe of our Littleton and Bays communities, the wildlife, both on the land and in the water, and our unique natural environment. Therefore, our key messages we would like to share are: protect our environment, especially the animals, sea and hills. Respect what nature contributes to our lives here. Look after the sea life that is special to Whakaropo. For example, our Hector's dolphins and our very rare korora, the tiny white flipped penguins that we share our harbour with. Restore the balance between nature and our human world, treasure all of the natural world around us, and act accordingly. The impacts of climate change will threaten things we love. Erosion in and around the harbour, caused by escalating extreme weather, will pollute the water, threaten people's homes, and change the bush, including animal habitats. Rising sea levels could flood people's and other animals' homes and wash away food sources. It could also break roads and walkways, which could make moving around the bays difficult.
So these are the problems, but what are the solutions? To help us adapt and become more resilient, we would like to see more trees planted, especially native and fruit trees. Renewable energy sources such as solar panels subsidised so people can afford them, and working with nature when exploring solutions. We would consider building seawalls as a temporary solution, but as the walls are often only effective for a limited amount of time and are expensive, we want to make sure that they would only be considered in extreme situations.
We also like the idea of looking at lifting roads to protect them from climate change. However, What we all strongly agree on is we don't like cruise ships using the harbour. They pollute the water, use fossil fuels, and the tourists don't always treat our community and the surrounding natural environment with the respect we know it deserves. We believe that this outweighs any money that they may bring into our community.
We would now like to provide feedback on the marine transport network. As a group, generally, we like the idea of using the harbour for transport. This would be good because people will use the roads less, reducing the pollution from fossil fuels and leading to fewer accidents on the road. However, we do have some concerns that we would like you to consider.
One of our concerns is depending on how you power the boat, they could pollute the water. As you know, one of the things we value about living here is the natural environment. We would like you to commit to using renewable energy sources when and where possible. This includes making sure it is easy for them to power up. You could also consider sailboats and limiting the number of boats using the harbour at one time. We worry about the impact on marine life from increased use of boats. How will you make sure that they are okay and protected? As an idea, you could have people on boats whose job it is to look out for marine life.
People love the convenience of their cars and driving them. Therefore, even though it might be a good idea, they won't use the network. We would be interested to see and hear how you will encourage people to get out of their cars and to using the network instead.
Before we end our presentation, we would each like to share a brief individual statement on why climate change planning and action is important to us.
There is so much life apart from humans, because every penny we spend on petrol, cruise ships, and all the other disgusting things humans bring to our harbour causes pain to the native wildlife. I can't blame this all not on me, but have you ever thought about every piece of rubbish you pick up and every non-native sapling you pull out is saving a native bird, animal, or plant?
I really hope we can do more to protect all the animals in Littleton Harbour, including the Hector's dolphins. They're all so special and are a great part of Littleton. The harbour is home to so many different animals and they all deserve to be safe and healthy. With better rules and more awareness, we can help make sure they all live a safe and happy life, and I believe that's really important.
I think the most important thing when we deal with climate change is preserving as many of the plant and animal species as possible, because it's all good and well to save us humans' way of life, but a world void of the amazing, diverse life we know today isn't a world I believe would be worth living in.
As a team and a wider group from our school who can't be here today, we would again like to thank you for this opportunity. We were wondering if you had any feedback or questions for us. It would be helpful to get feedback, as anything you say or do now affects us for our future.
Good, excellent. Have we got any questions? Yanni, please.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for taking the time to make the submission. I was really interested in your comments on the cruise ships, particularly around there's a little comment in our papers that says that the cruise ships are bad, and Corsair Bay, as an example, used to have sand and clear sea, but ever since the cruise ships came, the bay has been muddy and murky. And I was just wondering if your school or if you're aware of any research into the impact, particularly around the environmental impact in Corsair Bay from the cruise ships, or whether that's just something you've just observed.
We have seen the reports from ECAN about testing the bay's water clarity or percentage of gross stuff in the water. However, our school hasn't yet done any investigations into that.
But thank you for raising it anyway. I do share your concerns, so yeah, it's really good that you've raised it. Thanks.
Thank you, mate. Tyler?
Kia ora team, thank you so much for coming in. That was an amazing submission. I was reading through your written submission, and again, it was very well done. I've just got two questions. The first one is on the intergenerational part of it. So you talked about acting now instead of waiting for something to happen and then acting upon it. Would you be able to hone in a bit more on what you actually like to ask? Is there anything in particular you'd like to would like the council to act upon now? Take your time. There's no stress. And we could talk about it offline if you'd like to. It's no worries.
Well, because it's sort of the longer we wait, the harder it will be to actually fix it. Because there's not much with climate change right now, but if we fix it now, it'll be less expensive and less things to do than if we wait till later when it's a bigger problem.
That's a great answer. The last question I've got is around the things that may not be within this plan, but it's of the wider scope of climate action. I'm wondering if staff will be able to be okay with taking this to the side. I'd love to just talk to them a bit more about it. Is that all right, team? Cool. And I'd love to engage with you guys in the future too. That'd be great. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for making time, and very good to see you. Good. Thank you. Okay, we've got Barry next from Teddington Quarry. Barry was Ra your father, uncle, or uncle? Mm. Yep. Way back in the day when I was just a wee fella.
That'll be right, short
doing
pants.
roads. The quality of the AP40 that was made at Teddington Quarry was the best stuff to use. It was fantastic.
And it still sticks together too.
It
Now,
does.
this will be a little bit different from the last submitters. Now, I'll just give you my background. I'm a quarry operator in Teddington. Their families have been running it for a couple of generations. I spent 20 years as a major shareholder and operator of bank splinter transport in the Little River. And I've had 40 years involved in civil and roading on bank splinters. I did a lot of work for previous councils, Akara and Mount Herbert, and I did a lot of work for bank splinter also. So I have a pretty good understanding on the issues on bank splinter. I'm not going to talk about the quarry. I'm only going to talk about the issues from Allendale to Charters Bay. But firstly, I'd like to have one comment about the Wharf Road that seems to have taken the council's taken a lot of flack for it. With Banks Spillage Council, I did several contracts in Port Levy, widening and reconstructing the roads. Now, the $13 million to do the Wharf Road seems astronomical to me. It's only a few $100,000. Fernley Point is a massive big point, which is about a kilometre away of rock, just needs to be blasted out and put on the road. It's a few $100,000. I just want to talk briefly. Everything that I've got here, I've got a lot of detail on, but it's all been passed over already. So the jetty track is, once more, it's only a few $100,000 just to keep on building it up. And you have to remember, it's only a track. It's not a road, you know. It's not millions of dollars. The domain, again, in the past, the community has asked us contractors to put fill in there, and we've lifted it up, especially the far end, by about 1.5 metres, and it all came at no cost because it was a community effort. I think in the future this could also happen again. It sort of needs local solutions for local problems. So I've got a lot of detail on that we don't need to talk about. Now the dump, the $85 million to take it to Cape Valley, once more it's just out of control for price. Probably in the Banks Splinter Council days, we put a bund around there for an engineer called David McNaughton, and we dug down a couple of metres and put 5 metre wide and just put rock fill around it, covered it up with fabric, and then armoured the outside with rock. And I went around and had a look last week, and it's still as good as the day it was there. And before we did that, there was a lot of leaching coming out. You could see there was the area of probably about 5 metres of black guns just coming out from the dump. That's all stopped now. It's contained. So I'm sure, you know, for a few $1 million, you can do something better than $85 million worth. What else? Now, the proposals to lift the road up in Allendale, I support that. Very sensible, and not a lot of money in it either. The Teddington Road, well, this is the lifeblood of the whole community, really, and I don't think I don't even understand why you're talking about letting the sea come over it. It just needs to be lifted, and then it sorts out all the problems from Diamond Harbour, Puria, right to the city. And also, how reliable is State Highway 75? Because what is the reaction of sea level rising on the Lake Ellesmere? Because if you go around there now in the wintertime, there's a lot of flooding in Ahariri Lagoon. So there's issues there too. What else have we got? So I think that's all I need to say about that. Now also I think the farmers in Teddington have been ignored because it appears as if the sea is just going to go over their productive land, and there's probably 40 or 50 hectares look like potentially will get reduced to wasteland. I think the council needs to talk to them and find a way of keeping their land productive. Charters Bay, I support the raising of the road. I think it's very sensible and the only answer. The boat ramp is about, I had a look at it the other day, and it's about 3,000 square metres. To lift it up, it's like 3,000 cube of low quality material. Once more, it's only a boat ramp, it's just shingle. It's not millions of dollars. Once more, it's $200,000 or $300,000. Very sensible. The report really states all the obvious solutions, and I think one of the missing content on this report is you needed to employ an experienced rural roading engineer to give you some actual facts. The costs seem to be astronomical. Would you agree with that, Aaron? You seem to, yes. Yeah. So you just need really to talk to the local community and try to get some more local solutions to the problems. Anybody got any questions?
No, you're certainly speaking my language. Carry on.
I know, I understand that. You understand. Well, I see you do the maths like I do the maths, and you look at where can $13 million come from? It can't, can it? Because you have to build it about 20 metres high.
Yeah.
And the fill is only like a kilometre away.
Yeah, that's right. Tyler?
Absolutely.
Yeah, g'day. I was just going to ask about that exact thing.
Yeah.
Was around the economical aspect of it in terms of, in one of the reports we've had $16 million quoted for all of the works and the movement of the road.
At Port Levy.
Yeah. Can you hone in a bit more on your views and the pricing accordingly in regards to the relocation of that road? What do you
Well, it
see?
needs to be done, it's built up, and the actual fill is right there on Fernley Point. I know it belongs to Coops, but I'm sure they would they'll give it to you or sell it to you for very little. But like it's a big high bank, about 12 metres high, and there's thousands of metres there. It just needs to be taken out, sorted out, and just laid in. It's, I don't know, Phil, you'd know better than I would, but you might be talking 10,000 cubic metres. Well, that's not $13 million worth. It has to be resealed again, obviously, but
Not when it's right there on your back doorstep.
no, not at all.
And that's the 500 metres of...
No, that, and also going towards the Par. Also, there's another section there, plus in front of Fernley Point, where Coops live. There's another area there that would need to be lifted up too. It might be 1.5 kilometres altogether. That would be about all, I think.
Okay, cool.
But the numbers are miles away from where they should be.
Yeah, I'll be asking stuff about that later.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Aaron?
At the start, Brad, did you say you're still working, doing...
Do I look that old?
What's that? No, but you're still doing contracts around there?
Yes, but only small stuff now, I've had my day.
Right, well, yeah, but your day's still going, so any chance you want to be a project manager for some of these? And that, we'll just quote your numbers.
I think I'd be a bit mean.
That's fine, we like mean.
Yeah.
That's why Phil's here.
I think...
Cheers, guys. Thanks, Barry.
Thank you.
It's very. Have you? By quick question, how much more room have you got in your quarry?
There's future there.
Oh, you still got plenty.
There's future. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. That's excellent. Because common sense tells me, why would we go all the way to, we'll say Isaacs or Fulton Hogan, cart it all the way over the hill when it's right there on your back doorstep?
But also in the past, the councils of there's a man called Ken Paulin. I don't know if you know him at all. He was the engineer for the Akaroa Council.
Dad's uncle.
Uncle. Oh, well, there we have it. But he was a man where he would go to a corner. This was before there was lots of health and safety, etc. And he would get a spray bomb out, and he would say, you'd start here and you'd start there, and you'd go in 4 metres there, and that's the engineering done. And he'd go down the road and say, that corner there, we want that filled up. So you'd strip it out, put it in, roll it in, and that was it all done. And it was very simple.
They survived.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, yes.
So it is.
There was lots of after the storm in the 90s, we did a lot for the Banks Provincial Council. We did a lot of dropouts that we did with rock fill and just dug them out, put it in, rolled them in, etc. And I can go to every one now, and they're still there, and it's done more economically probably than they are today.
Excellent.
So, but it's just the way it is.
Good man. Thanks, Barry.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Stay by your phone, Barry.
Okay,
No,
now
thank you,
we've
Dan.
got one on Zoom. Brett, is it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So Brett King on Zoom. Are you there, Brett?
Yeah, hi. How you doing? Can you see me or hear me?
I can certainly hear you. Far away.
How you doing? Sorry, apologies, I couldn't be there today. I've got to drive down to Dunedin for a surf lifesaving event, and I love the coast. Kia ora koutou. Thanks for your time, everyone. I know it's been a long day. I'll try and keep this short. I'm just here as one local voice for a small community. I want to talk about the track in Allendale Domain. It's not a track; it's just a lifeline. It's how school kids get to class safely. It's how people connect with nature, with each other, with their own well-being. It's a safety artery for a community caught between a busy road and the sea. Everyday locals walk, cycle, and breathe here. They spot kiddo in the trees. And I've heard from so many people, we've only lived in this area for a few years, but, some have lived here for, 30, 40 years. When they were kids, they would see one kiddo. And now, you see like 20 or 30 a day sometimes. And that's because of all the local planting and all the community action for that sort of stuff. But I'd love to see this track not neglected. I'd love to see it, extend all the way from Diamond Harbour to Littleton. It's easily from Allendale to Littleton. Look at what the West Coast Cycle Trail's done for tourism over there. It's an asset, and this could be too. Right now we're at risk of losing it, of falling into a community-managed asset, despite it being, something so much more. Coastal hazards are real. The harbour's quality is degrading. But what's more concerning is the approach being taken, one that risks cutting people off instead of bringing them together. It's an opportunity not to remove, but to enhance. I fully support planting of the domain. Rejuvenating native bush is crucial to the region, but removing all of the flat space, I feel it's a small oversight. This isn't just about cost, it's about benefit, it's about balance. Because if we completely plant out the domain, we lose something bigger. This is the only flat public area between Littleton and Diamond Harbour. It's where the community comes together for the yearly fete, school sports days, and everyday recreation, for local horse riders, dog walkers, families. I see people using every single day. We've seen this done well before. Take Horsell Quarry. It's a former industrial site. It's now a thriving native habitat, much loved recreational space. That's balance. We've got two routes ahead. One that isolates and neglects and diminishes what makes this place special, or one that can strengthen, protect, and ensure future generations can enjoy what we have now. The choice is ours. And thanks for your time.
Excellent. No, that's great. Have any questions? No, thank you very much, and enjoy Dunedin.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
See you, mate. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Right, Eric, please.
Marching was cancelled too, so he's out.
Good day. I'm a resident of Allendale, and before I get started, though, I just want to do a quick correction on my online submission. I accidentally put down Dyer's Pass to Charteris Bay route. It should have been Gebby's Pass, so if that doesn't make sense, sorry about that. Hard to make good decisions when you're given bad data. Anyway, thank you very much for doing the draft coastal hazards adoption plan. Saying I had a good read through that and learned a few things I didn't know about the Allendale tip at all. So that was something new to me and interesting to hear various stories on that as well. I think one of the big things in my surprise on this was just notification. Hopefully we can do a better job of that in the future. I didn't find out about this plan as a homeowner that would be isolated. Once the roads reduce in service, until I went to the Allendale Reserve to go for a walk and saw the sign there. So not sure what happened there, if that was just a mailing that got lost or something like that, but hopefully we can figure out what happened there. So essentially I typically use the Dyer's Pass route every day to come into town, and so I'm a bit concerned if that gets downgraded in the future due to sea level rise, that I'll be basically isolated from both the Dyer's Pass and the Gebby's Pass side. Looking at the Allendale side of it in front of the Allendale domain, that portion is a very small bit of road there, and as Barry mentioned, we could probably raise it up quite easily. And as part of the landfill remediation, I'm not sure what's in there. I was hoping that it was going to be kind of benign stuff, but it sounds like from Barry, it's got some leachant in there and things like that. I was hoping we could use some of that maybe as fill for the road, but it doesn't sound like that may be the case. But I think it's in the report there that you'll do some
studies on it to determine what can be done with it. So kind of pleased to see that. As part of the general bay environmental concerns, I know a lot of times we're not allowed to swim, especially over Sandy Beach area where they do water testing. It'd be interesting to find out how much of that is from the leachant, how much is from something else. And if we can, if it's sewage or something like that going into the water, if we can combine maybe some of that landfill remediation with tracking down those sources, so we can hopefully clean up the bay. Yeah, and then I guess the final concern, just want to see what happens when the road level gets reduced. What happens to city services? Do we still get rubbish pickup and rural post delivery and things like that? Or are we basically isolated at that point? So that's it.
Brilliant, thank you. Any questions, anyone? Excellent. Thank you for taking the time to come.
Yep,
And
thank you.
Drew. Okie doke. Now we're on to Peter Newton, please.
Your Worship,
How are you?
councillors, thank you. I've got a reduced slot because I got forgotten somewhere along the point. So I had a presentation. You're going to get a different one, okay? My family come from Banks Peninsula. They arrived in Akara 1860. My great-great-grandfather and his brother-in-law built the Akara Anglican Church. They've been builders and farmers in the peninsula ever since. I've still got family here. We've got skin in the game. I just wanted to get that on the table first. Okay, my role, what I do is I've been involved in building and most of my life, some farming. My current position I hold is with Selwyn District Council. I've got a role called Principal Advisor Building. I interpret technical documents and I provide advice to others on how to work with them. I provide advice on how to work with legislation and I provide advice on consultation. So mostly what I try and do, because I'm a practical person, is put things in a practical way. So I'm now going to stand up and give you a little demonstration on why I think that some of the information presented, particularly the flooding in relation to Wharf Road, is not that beneficial as it's presented. Now we own the property that boundaries Wharf Road here, per our Port Levy Road here. So we're the majority landowner on the strip. We share it with Barrabows beside us and then Cross. So that whole area that we're talking about lifting, we own half of it. Okay, so we walk there nearly every day of our lives for the last 8 years. We're pretty familiar with it. So here we go, I'm standing up. This is the sea. This is the road. This is where the sea rises to. My little chair that's just trapped here, it's not coming anywhere. This is the road level height. Okay. So the land on this side of the road is about that level. The sea comes up to about there. Now things influence there. You get tidal surges and so forth, storm surges. Tonkin and Taylor's report, which is a technical document that I have read, says that when we get a storm surge, we're getting somewhere up to this level, which is currently about this far below the road. All the evidence is there, the shells, the debris, it all shows the erosion. So currently the land on this side drains through culverts that come out about here. Every time the tide comes in, the sea comes up, comes through this culvert, comes out here in the land. So all the stuff that appears as damage in the land is in fact just the sea coming in and out of those pipes.
Underneath.
So when they talk about high level groundwater table, there isn't one. What there is there's a flooding effect from the sea coming up and soaking those drains. Now building inspectors, of which I was one for 10 years, can tell you what high water tables look like. We don't have them, okay? You can dig a hole anywhere in our paddocks, the paddocks next door, you don't find a high water table. So that's probably something that's affecting costings in terms of that road. It really needs to be scientifically investigated. And the other thing that I'd like to talk about is that flood image, because it's really a compelling image. Big blue blob on the thing, 1 metre deep. Here's the road, it's 1 metre underwater. But those flood images that work from those flood maps, which I deal with all the time, are generated from LiDAR, and they should show the different levels of the landform. So they should show the land on this side of the road at a lower level in the colouring, and the road a higher level of flooding, and the road should have a lower colouring on it, but it doesn't. So anyway, currently, here's my road level here. Here's the sea. Even under Tonkin and Taylor's growth in 2065, we've got a sea level under storm conditions, 1 in a 100-year event, which has to coincide with a rain event, 1 in a 100-year, what their model's based on, not the seawater one. The two have to combine for the period of the high tide, because the high tide is the only period when the storm surge is this high, and then someone's going to tell me, when the sea level's here, how's this 1 metre of water going to transfer itself over the whole of Port Levy Harbour to put this road underwater? Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. That picture, it's been generated for the purposes of indicating a really bad effect that won't happen. So that's all I'd like to say. I'd like to give you the rest of my presentation, but there's not time. Thank you.
Tim, that's very good. Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, in some areas along the Heathcote River, etc., we've got those socks, that stop the water coming up the pipes, and we've got them in some areas of the estuary, which kind of are problematic with regards to sand, etc. But when you talk about the sea surge coming up through the culverts, if we pipe those and industrialise and put those big socks type to stop that coming through and under the road into the land, would that be, your expertise, would that be a help?
I couldn't speak on that, it's outside my expertise, but in the simplest terms, if the roadside drains were formed and got rid of the culverts and formed to the creeks either side, they'd just naturally drain into the creeks and they'd go out there most of the time. But that hasn't happened. The same thing would help for Fernley Road, which is almost permanently inundated in its roadside drains and up the side of Port Levy Road, which leads to a whole lot of boggy ground. There's a whole lot of buried culverts under there that the sea's just constantly charging. So over time, when the sea level comes up, potentially those culverts need to be done away with and fords put into the road as an option, because the culverts are this far below the carriage of the road, and that's the only freeboard we've got currently between the top of the sea and everything. Yeah, there was just one other point I wanted to make, was if the road is raised and protected and saved along Fernley Point, and not Fernley Point, on Fernley Road, heading towards the bridge on the right-hand side, by building that up, it's going to divert the sea, bounce it into the rest of the Wharf Road area. So it's going to accelerate the erosion on the property, on our property, our neighbour's property and Craw's property. And certainly under all the Building Act I work with and how we respond with the RMA, you can't control your problem by worsening the effects for someone else. And that's exactly what will happen if you build up the land of maintaining the current sealed road and don't protect the other bit.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very
I've
much.
got two very short questions, Tyler, and then
Kia ora, thanks for coming in. So are you saying that there could be alternative options instead of the culverts that are currently in place to be able to push out the high tide and then 1 in a 100-year storm surge?
I'm a person with farming and building experience and only deal in the obvious, but surely, yeah, I'm not a roading engineer. Let's get that on the ground. But I do have 20 years in councils and have done a lot of time working with roading departments.
excellent. Yep, thank you. And
Thank you. Thank you, Peter. Can you tell us whether in the earthquake sequence of 2010 and 2011 there was actually any uplift in the land on that coastal edge there, and whether that's been factored into account at all in the modelling?
I couldn't. I can tell you that Google tells me from looking at Tonkin and Taylor's report this morning that claims we've had a certain amount, about 170 mils of sea level rise in the last 100 years. And the other thing called Sea Level Littleton or something, which is a document about how Littleton datum is used as a surveying datum for all around Canterbury, that the combination of land lift in relationship to sea level rise means there's been zero rise in the last 100 years. But that doesn't mean that I'm a denier of climate change or the potential for sea level rise. I'm just telling you what I read in a scientific document this morning.
great, thank you. Aluminium flat valve on the culvert pipe. That's all you need.
Oh, is that all you want?
All over it. Yep.
Trouble is they're buried all the time in the shingle.
Good on you. David Fleet. Yeah, sorry.
I had a visual image. When you walk along the road, you can see the stakes, the wooden stakes that, as I understand it, were placed during make-work schemes of the 1930s Depression. So they're still only this far from the road. And there's rock there that they obviously won from the side of the road there and placed there to protect the sea. It's still right there. So very little has to be done to provide protection because you're not in an aggressive environment. It's a really benign environment in terms of the sea.
Yeah.
Sorry to take so much time.
Good on you, mate. Thank you. Righto. Here's patiently waiting.
Always a pleasure.
How are you, mate?
Well, good afternoon, councillors. I want to concentrate my comments of the draft plan on two specific parts only. One is the road Teddington to Allendale of 5 kilometres, and more specifically the road from Teddington to Manson's Point, which is only 2 kilometres. The second point I want to cover is the flooding of productive farmland. My first request is that you listen very carefully to the auditors of this draft report as they presented to you this morning. And I acknowledge they have attempted to change their messaging substantially when they released the report and they saw the outcry from local residents. But in adjusting their message, they're not getting rid of the primary message, which is ultimately they see that road closing. They said today, and I quote, they said this to you this morning, Councillor Templeton, we propose maintaining the road for a period of time. They further said, and I quote, there will be reductions in the level of services to that road over time. To cease maintaining that road ultimately means it closes at some stage in the future. I want you to refer again to page 50 of the report. They clearly talk about their priority being one safe road into Christchurch for the residents of Port Levy, Charters Bay, Diamond Harbour, Teddington, and that is via Gebby's Pass. The essence of this document, the total document, is that they're saying climate change is coming. I don't think any of us deny that. But what this document says is let the environment have its way. I want you to reflect on the city leaders in 1860 if they had been presented with a report like this saying the environment have its way when they decided to create the stop banks along the Waimakariri River. The courage of the decision to create those stop banks along that river means that Christchurch has been protected since 1860 and the environment hasn't been allowed to rule. The city leaders of the day took some practical measures to protect the city from flooding. What is annoying to me when I read this document, it doesn't realise how easy it is to fix the challenge. And I'm going to outline the solution to you. Simply raise the 2 kilometres road I'm talking about by a metre, put in some some culverts, as you, Councillor Timber, talked about, with a floodgate on the seaward side. In the event of a heavy rain, the water washes out to sea and that floodgate flicks up. When sea rises or high tide is caused, you have that floodgate stopping. Use the raising of the road as a stop bank like the city leaders did in 1860. It's as simple as that. The second success of this initiative would address my other concern, which is the flooding of productive farmland. This particular bit of land is not huge in size, but it is highly productive. It is a scarce resource on Banks Peninsula. How many of you know that it was growing potatoes as the first 4 ships came up the harbour in 1850? So yes, I own some of that land, and I would argue to you today that you have a duty to protect it. It used to flood less than it does now because under Banks Peninsula District Council, the drains that are there had the culverts with these floodgates being maintained regularly. They have not been maintained since amalgamation of Banks Peninsula District Council into the Christchurch City Council. I looked up my rate demands for this particular block of land I own, $8,500 per year. I don't get water, I don't get sewage, I don't live there, so I don't get rubbish collection. All I want is the ability to carry on producing food, and I might tell you a bigger concern than climate change is actually food security for this world. I want to carry on as a food producer, and the other thing I want to do is to drive into Christchurch without having to go into the Selwyn District Council. I want to make one final point. If you guys decide to adopt this plan that you've got and let the environment win, then at some time in the future, this council is passing a huge difficulty to the next council. And I'm referring to St. Peter's Anglican Church, which was built in the 1870s when the first burials occurred. The Gebbies, the Mansons and the Blatchfords, generations of them are buried there. Does a future council want to face the challenge of disinterring those graves and moving them to higher land when you could have solved the problem so easily? Thank you very much for your time.
Two questions, Tyler and Tim.
So, David, thanks for coming in.
No.
Just a question about the timeline of these two big patches that you were talking about. Is there a timeline that you'd sort of envision that to be delivered upon?
No, just get on with it when you can. It's such an easy solution. The material's there. You've had Barry Blatchford saying this 2 kilometres road, in the middle of that is the Teddington Quarry. You've got to carry it the furthest one way a kilometre, the furthest the other way a kilometre. Get on and do it.
Tim?
So yes, and answer your question, the sooner the better.
Tim?
Hey, David, thank you very much. With regards to having a vision, I prefer to work with the environment than against whatever. But if we could envisage, say, something like the causeway through from, say, when the road comes down from Governor's Bay right through to the other end, and have those flood protections in the culverts, that would be the ideal, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you. Cheers. Cool.
Sarah, please.
Thanks so much. When it comes to weighing things up as a council, we've got $180 million currently on budget for some surface level street flooding in the urban area. And do you think that areas that have their access completely at risk, like on Banks Peninsula, should have a greater weighting than that?
No, you've got to treat all citizens and respect their rights and their concerns. However, do some sensible costing. It mentions in here $8 million to build up that 2 kilometres of road by 1 metre. I just don't accept that pricing.
Okay, thanks.
Do some homework, that's all I'm saying.
And then we'll have some lunch.
Just quickly, I mean, if the decision is to go ahead and do what you're suggesting, would you tolerate driving through to Selwyn District Council for a short time?
We'd have no choice.
So you would?
Well, otherwise you ask me to live as a hermit in Teddington until you fix the road.
I just thought we'd better ascertain that fact.
No, I'm happy to drive through if I have to.
Excellent. Thanks for waiting. It's good to see you.
See ya.
Chaps, ladies and gentlemen, we will be back at 1:20 on the dot. Thank you.